listening to a CRM Playaz be without a profile shot of me looking at the screen. So
every time we get Brent's, we're getting his right profile. And he has a long sort of something, a really long white hair hanging out of his ear.
I was ready to say, really?
Nice whisker.
All right, we
Beautifully.
are live, and now I get to share it to my profile page. There we go. Live. All right. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
I'm not in Vegas today.
Well, that means we're probably not the CRM Playaz then.
We're the CRM Playaz, and I'll be in Vegas tomorrow anyway. So
yeah, then we can be back to CRM Playaz tomorrow. You know, I was thinking, I was thinking the other day, you know, that whole "Where's Waldo" thing. I was thinking like we would do this "Where's CRM Playaz" thing, but it's so obvious. It's so easy to find us. Just look at Vegas. We're there.
Yeah, just ask Wayne. Ask our buddy Wayne Newton or Donnie or our girl Marie. You know, doesn't.
That's right. We could have said Celine Dion, but she's no longer there.
Yeah, you know. All right, we are back once again, and with us today, we've known Giles House for how many years? I mean, it seems like a long time at this point. You know?
Since I think it was since Steve McQueen put out Bullet, right?
Yes, that was actually even before Giles knew Giles House because he wasn't born then. But it is Giles House. Let me give the official title, the GM of SAP Sales Cloud, Giles House. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
Finally. It's been years in coming.
Not quite as many years as you make. Pretty close.
Not too far off. I don't think I'm that far off. I think I'm the only one that could actually make the claim. I think I'm the only one who was alive when that movie came out among the three of us.
I might have been alive, but I probably was kind of young.
Well, it was about 57, no? 61, 57?
No, I think it was was that in like the mid to late 60s or something like that?
That late? No fun. I thought it was the 50s. Ooh.
Mustangs, were the Mustangs around in the late 50s?
I remember Mustangs in the mid 60s. That's the first I remember them. Yeah. Actually, now that you're saying that, I'm going to have to tell this amazingly brief part of a long personal story, but I had this woman I was completely in love with, and she was very wealthy, came from a very wealthy family. This was when I was in college, and she had a red Mustang with a white convertible top. Mm-hmm. We used to drive around, and she wasn't in love with me, but what can you do? But we used to drive around in it a lot. That much I know.
Was her name Sally? Because this would be too good if it was Mustang Sally, man.
Yeah, sadly, it's too good. It wasn't.
It's got to be a Mustang somewhere, hasn't it?
Yeah, different one.
Mustang Agnes doesn't.
No, yeah. This one, believe me, using her name, it doesn't work. The combo doesn't work.
All right. Well, wait a minute. Giles, do you own a Mustang? Because you own pretty much every other kind of cool car.
No Mustangs. I think the Bullet ones are pretty cool though. I wouldn't mind getting one of those one day. Maybe.
I remember driving around with you in a black Porsche several years ago.
Yeah.
Do you still have that car?
I wish I did. I should have kept that one. That was a good one. There's something unique and magical about Porsche 911s and the way they handle. They're just like nothing else on the road.
It was fun, and you're a very good driver. I'll tell you that.
I don't know though. There's something magical about the '76 Nova I had when I was a little kid too. You know, the '80 Nintendo Ford was good too. So
my first Renault 5. I mean, they don't even make them.
To me, there was something magical about not driving cars and letting other people take me if I felt like that.
Well,
I just drive.
That's coming back around, you know, with these autonomous cars. So what's old is new, right?
Yeah.
You know, except autonomous cars, as far as I know, don't have other people driving it.
That's Uber or Lyft then, okay?
So I have a really important question, Giles. Are you going to buy a Porsche if it's autonomous?
No, I have ordered one of the electric ones, the Taycan. That's on order.
What's that?
It's bigger than a 911 and it's smaller than a Panamera, and so it's their take on the fully electric sort of Tesla saloon car, if you will.
Are you giving up a car for it, or are you keeping it in addition to all your other collection?
I think that's to be negotiated.
Well,
You could get away with this. You could just tell that you're going to give the old car to your son. Of course, he's only 2 years old or something like that.
Yeah, we're just going to look after it and just keep it ticking over for it.
Tell him you want to trade it to Jay Leno.
Yeah,
For future trade.
To look after.
So, got a question for you. I was watching this video of you the other day. I want to say Alex Atzberger put it up. Don't hold me to that. Somebody put it up. It was from, I think, CX Live.
Yeah.
And you were talking about sales experience management, which is,
yes.
I have to say, new one on me. Okay, so I'm trying to get an idea what that is exactly and how you're thinking about it and why SAP is putting that forward, and just tell us a story.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way it came about is that there's this whole idea of X data and O data, right? And ever since the acquisition of Qualtrics, we've been talking a lot about that as SAP. And the O data is the operational data, whether it's from your HR system or your CRM system or your financial systems, your orders, whatever. It's that sort of process data. And then the X data is the sentiment, which up until now we've struggled to capture. And it's the sentiment from the customers, whether it's a survey, whether it's less structured data, and we have to do a bit of fancy stuff to analyze how the customer's feelings. It's essentially that, how the customer feels about you, your product, your brand, your salespeople, for example. It's capturing that pulse. And so being able to put those two things together, when you think about the importance of a customer experience that we talk about so much, we've always been able to sort of create what we think are beautiful customer experiences with solutions to better engage the customers, right? But we've never actually been able to close that loop so well in an automated fashion and go, well, what do the customers actually think about the experience that we think is good? And so there's this notion that there's this experience gap where, 80% of CEOs will say they do a good job creating a great customer experience. But actually, when you ask the customers, only 8% say, yeah, you do a good job. So there's a massive gap and disconnect between what we think and then what the customers actually tell us. And so that's this idea of this experience and closing that gap. And the same thing happens in sales, right? We try and get our salespeople to be cognizant of the customer, doing a nice job in front of the customer, being fast and responsive, and being knowledgeable. You think about when you interact with a salesperson, whether it's going to buy a car, whether it's going to buy a multi-million-dollar piece of industrial equipment, you want to know that that salesperson can answer your questions, because if they don't have a clue what they're talking about, it's hard for you to put your trust in them. You say, why is this model better than that model? They start scratching their head and giving you some kind of waffly answer. You're not really inclined to trust them with your cash. And the same is true in B2B, B2C, whatever you're buying. And so for us, we started thinking about it and going, look, we do a lot of things for salespeople. We help drive performance through incentives. We help them do a better job in front of their customer with things like proposal generation and contracting. But, what if we put that all together and focused it on creating a great experience for the salesperson? Because if we give them a bad one, which we kind of do today, we give them fragmented tools, hard to find that 360 view of the customer, then how do we expect them to really do a good job in front of the customer? I mean, it's not that the salespeople, when you have that bad experience with a salesperson, it's not that the salesperson is necessarily a bad salesperson or a bad person. It's usually that we, the company, has failed to give them the information to help the customer, right? We haven't done the training on why is this model better than that model. We're making them jump through 10 different hoops to get a contract out the door. It's not the salesperson's fault, is it? That's our fault. And so we really started thinking about this and started thinking about how can we really focus on creating a beautiful experience for the salespeople. And if we create a great experience for the salespeople, more often than not, they will create a decent experience for the customer. And so that's this idea of sales XM, sales experience management. Give them the tools, the training, and the right processes and the right incentives to drive a good outcome with that customer.
So, I've heard, it's a good story. And, there's one thing that's kind of disappointing to me, to be honest, which is now I can't sign my emails X's and O's anymore. That used to mean kisses to me, man. And now it means sentiment data and transactional data. God, you ruined the whole thing for me. Thank you. So if I look at the history of companies, say Lattice Engines or Inside View or some of these other smaller companies, I don't think they were probably doing it at the level you guys will do it at or have been doing it at. But they've been doing something like that, and it tended to take the form, and particularly in Lattice Engine's case, of here's the sales intelligence we have on this company, this person. You tie it in with Intro Hive, let's say, and then here's the influencers inside the company and the opportunity and blah, blah, blah. And then here's the best next action you might take given the presentations that have already worked like this. Years ago, Oracle had a product called, what was it called? Social, it was, or I can't think of it now. Anyway, it was a similar idea, which was, the frightening thing with Oracle's product, which I think was the ultimate reason it didn't work, was that it also, as part of the social sales suite that they had, it also was trying to predict the outcome, meaning, is likely to close this in 2 months at, I'm making up the number here, but at $11 million, which is an automatic lose-lose. Because if you close it in 4 months at $11 million, that's not 2. And if you close it in 2 months at $9 million, that's not 11, right? So you can't really win that one unless you're exactly right. So one way or the other, because people tend to look at the half glass empty part, So in your case, what do you? I hope you're not doing that, and if you are doing that, you really need to explain that to me because I just don't get that part. But I do like the approach a lot, actually.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. I think you rattled off some very good companies that have different approaches to coming up with similar sort of things. What's the next best action for the salesperson? That sort of thing. We do pieces of that. So when you're putting together a proposal or a quote, we'll suggest some other things that should be in that quote, which will add more value to the customer. And we'll also suggest whether the discount is too high or too low. And then we can reinforce that by showing you your commissions. Great way to drive behavior. But for us, this whole idea of the XM is actually flipping it on its head and kind of acknowledging what I think is this great misnomer in the world of sales. We keep thinking about rolling out CRM systems and driving engagement and raising quota attainment. And I just think people should just sort of fess up to the fact that's not what CRM is going to do for you. CRM does a lot of good things, and it's a very useful tool. But as far as helping a salesperson, that's not what it's designed for, And this is about going, we need to focus on the sales rep for a second here. What do they need to do a beautiful job in front of the customer? And they need that customer 360. That's foundational. They need tools then to produce accurate quotes and proposals. In simple businesses, it's just a simple one-pager. There's no configuration. In other businesses, you can literally slash weeks off your quoting process by adopting some fairly basic automation. So you need these kind of things. And, what's a good analyst report to push out there? What are the analysts on social media saying? How can we use that in our sales campaign? So they need these tools to do that good job in front of the customer. The missing piece on this was the continual feedback from the customer, but also from the sales reps. So the idea of kind of getting a quick pulse check from your customer, hey, how was Giles in the meeting? Was he able to answer your questions well? Did you feel like he was really listening to you and understanding what it was that you're looking for? That's kind of obvious, right? But even today, people aren't doing that. And actually, more importantly, not collecting that information and using that in a kind of coaching way for their sales teams. But that's a pretty fairly established, well-trodden path, right? But what people are starting to do now, and what we're advocating people to do, is survey your salespeople as well. You think about that experience gap. We think we're doing a good job. The customers tell us, no way, you guys are doing a lousy job. The same thing is true in sales. You survey your people after the end of the quarter, what worked well, what didn't work well. And you're going to learn a ton about your sales processes and your sales tools. And also, thinking about when I was a CMO, you're also going to learn a lot about the quality of the leads and the lead gen programs that you're putting out. If you simply ask the salespeople at scale, and you can actually transmit that in that sentiment, transmit that raw data into usable information that you can use to improve your processes. So that's really the thing that's different here, is that we're really thinking about the actual salesperson and how can we make their life better.
Let me jump in there and kind of interesting, sales experience management. One of the things that we know, traditionally about salespeople is they hate using CRM. I mean, they just don't like sitting in front of a computer and putting in data, typing stuff, looking for data.
Because it does nothing for them. It does nothing for them. Like, who likes doing stuff that doesn't benefit them?
Right. But what we're seeing with these voice interfaces, these abilities to leverage your natural language to ask for things and to get services done or get information out, that seems to be a potential game changer when it comes to getting salespeople in particular to use these enterprise applications like a CRM. So where does these newer interfaces like voice, where does that fit into what you're talking about with sales experience management?
Yeah, look, I think voice is a part of it, Brent, that will help a lot. Right? You think about voice being able to dictate some notes after a meeting. That's something that's a game changer. We can do it on the move. We can do it in the car. That's great. So you're going to remove part of the barrier to people using CRM. But I don't think it solves the whole problem. I think you will never get away from the fact that we want to know and hear from the rep about the context of their deal. I think you need that. And I think having that little prompt, whether it's Siri popping up and saying, hey, how did it go in the meeting? I think that's a great way to capture that. But I think that's just one tiny little piece of it, And I think the voice commands, the voice interface as a launch pad for doing things like, look, the meeting was great. Let's get a proposal out there for 10 units. Can you come up with some pricing? Now that's something that without AI and without voice would be an activity that you would have to perform back in the office or when you get home on your laptop. And then things get in the way, and then other things get in the way, and then we forget about it. And a week later, the customer is emailing you saying, hey, where's my quote? And like, you think about that for a second. It's like we spent how many thousands of dollars trying to attract you as a lead and a customer, and yet our salespeople are kind of tripping over their shoelaces because they can't get a quote out the door. I mean, that's nuts. Right? I think I read a stat that something like 50% of companies know that their competition can get quotes out the door faster than them. And if they're even just a little bit as good, it could be a tiny bit more expensive. But if I can't get a quote from you, I'm not going to buy from you, right?
What about giving your sales reps fast cars to make it?
Oh, they could cover more ground. I mean, but I think that's one thing. It's covering more ground. But then, what do you do in front of that customer? So I think what you talked about, the voice, etc., that helps you cover more ground. But then the AI helps you be more effective and lets you do things that you couldn't do. I mean, you would never think about putting together a complex quote with multiple options, even if it just had sort of 15 different options in it. You wouldn't really think about doing that on a mobile phone. But if AI knowing the interactions that I've had with you, the things that you've responded to, the videos that you watched on my YouTube page, having known that and looking at the past behaviors of other people, the AI can then come up with a decent pass out the quote. May not be perfect, but it's there for you to review. You can make a few tweaks. You can fire it out the door. And that's just one example.
You go back to Brent's point about salespeople not liking CRM. A lot of that goes to the fact that they don't like being accountable particularly. They don't like, they want to protect their, it's what's happened for 30 years, 40, 50 years. They want to protect their network, so they think that's their leverage. That's their crown jewels. They don't want to expose themselves to managers. They don't want to be compared to other salespeople, blah, blah, blah. And basically, they can be insecure at times. Let's just say that. Now, that said, what you're proposing, which is helpful to them without a doubt, is still a change in habit, quite a bit, actually. And it breaks old routines, which means a cultural change is necessary there. Now, where that goes is, it would seem, I don't know, look, it's hard to say, for example, I don't know what SAP, let's say, or any of your customers, think of what SAP does in terms of its sales process, or what any of your customers think about what SAP does with its sales process, or and the salespeople. But one thing I do know is you have a product that came with you from Calidus Cloud, which is Litmos, and you have a sales onboarding tool that's pretty amazing. Actually, I still remember that when you were still at Calidus Cloud, when you and Leslie had me in front of your board of directors, and I saw the product, I was so blown away by that sales onboarding thing. I still am, actually, and I know it's been adopted SAP wide as the tool. But that seems to be at the point where you need to get the salesperson, right, to get this to actually succeed. Because you can spend the next 30 years trying to convince 25-year veterans to change, and by the time you convince them, they're going to retire or die, right? So, it's like going to take forever. People, it's hard to change habits, but if you get them early on, meaning at the point of onboarding, which is pretty much when you would, it would seem to me that it could work very well. So do you now, I don't know if you're there yet, but do you now have this baked into the onboarding tools that you're using via Litmos? Or are you going to do that through SAP Litmos itself, which is now apparently a product?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting point you make. And conventional wisdom says exactly that. Our salespeople are going to be very difficult to get using these new tools. And anything that kind of puts more spotlight on them, they're not going to want it. But actually what we saw with one particular area, which was sort of intelligent forecasting, is, when we threw up the forecast in a series of really easy to understand bubbles, right? Just imagine a screen of bubbles. The bigger the bubble, the bigger the deal. And if the bubble is green, all good. If the bubble is red, we need to look at this. And when you start viewing the forecast like that, and you actually start basing it off of data like how much communication is there, and not just me emailing you, Paul, or you, Brent, but actually, are you guys responding to me? Have we got a good dialogue? Is the pace building up, or is it really tapering off? Using a bit of smarts just around our communications to drive and inform that forecast. What we found is that the sales guys absolutely loved it. They completely embraced it, which was kind of counterintuitive for all the reasons you just said. But they loved it for one very simple reason. They got left alone when they didn't need help. So if I'm looking at 100 deals in my forecast for the quarter, and I've got 50 of them that are big and green or small and green, under control. Don't need to worry about them. The ones that are big and red and are behind the gun, those are the ones I need to focus on. And oftentimes, those are the ones where the reps need the help. And you can see things very clearly. Like, instead of just going, hey, Brent, how's that deal going? Is it going to come in? And you're like, yeah, no worries, we're going to get it. It's going to be fine. And then the last day of the quarter, you don't get it. You can see it early in the quarter, and you can see things like, hey, Brent's the only guy at that company that I know. I fired off a couple of emails to these other people that are involved in the decision, but nobody's responded, right? So that's not a deal that you can commit for the quarter and say, I'm going to close that deal, because I've only had a few communications with Brent, and I don't know how serious he really is. I don't know if he can, get the budget. I don't know if he can sign the check, etc., etc. So you can start to see these things, and then you can start to take action. And this is the part that the reps really liked, was that the managers actually became coached by virtue of seeing the data. Instead of just sort of going, hey, look, we really need this deal for the quarter. Come on, we need to get it. Come on. They could actually go, look, you've only got the connection to Brent. I know a few people at that company, or we can see, in the rest of our company, these other guys know people here. Let's get a few emails off right now, and let's see if we can broaden this out and get some momentum going. So the reps actually that needed the help got the help. The ones that didn't need it got left alone. And the help was actually useful, and it changed the behavior from, a sales manager, compliance, stick type thing to a real coach in the sense of, the great sporting coaches that actually helped drive the performance of the sales rep. And so that goes back to this idea of what kind of experience are we giving to our salespeople?
So do you have it built into Litmus yet? Into sales onboarding?
Yeah, this is all stuff you can bake into your onboarding flows, right? And you get the reporting, the analytics to actually see, are people looking at it? That's the O data. The X data is then, how am I doing? How is this onboarding program? Is it useful? Because if you look at a sales rep and their quota attainment, that could be many things. It could be the lead gen. It could be that they're no good in front of the customer, or it could be that your onboarding sucks. So why not ask the salespeople and get their feedback? And we don't have to have teams and teams of people doing months of analysis. And just ask the questions. What do you guys think of it? And if the answer is 90% your onboarding program sucks, guess what? Your onboarding program probably sucks. Mm-hmm. To do something about it. You don't need AI to tell you that.
Well, listen.
Does marketing? Oh, excuse me.
No, you did.
Okay. What role does marketing play in the sales experience management process?
It's integral. I mean, if marketing can't serve up the information we need, or worse, they're serving up information that's bad, then we need to let marketing know. And oftentimes the temptation is just to go, oh, these leads stink. I'm not going to look at them. And even worse, the worst thing you can do as a sales rep is to actually accept them. So when you think about sales and marketing alignment, and you have this idea of sales formally accepting a lead, that process is critical. And you should never, ever take a lead that you think is useless just because you're so starved. It's actually worse than not taking the lead. Because then what it does is it arms the CMO to say, well, according to my reports, you accepted all of these leads and you couldn't turn them into something. So the problem is with you, So marketing's got to be at the table. They've got to be tightly joined up. But this X data idea, getting the feedback, helps to throw a spotlight on, a broken process or somebody not following what was properly agreed upon.
So this is another question entirely. So I've known you, like 8 years now, I think?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, at least. I've been to your house, I've met your wife, who is a wonderful human being.
She is?
Yeah, she is. She really is. I have to say. She's really, really a good person.
One's weight.
I worked with you especially at Calidus Cloud. We sat in the same room. I still have no idea what Calidus means. What is it?
It's Latin for accurate and precise.
Oh, for God's sake.
And that's very, very lofty and intelligent, isn't it? The company was founded, I think, 21 years ago. But it worked for the business it was in. You wanted accurate, precise commissions. That was the company you came to. Yeah. That's what it says on the tin.
I just lost a bet because I was thinking about Transformers. Something like Optimus Prime. So maybe it was Calidus Cloud. Maybe it was
Bumblebee and Calidus Cloud.
He'd be a pretty boring Transformer unless
well, you transform businesses.
commissions.
No, but think about it. If it was accurate, if that's what it really means, that would be a great transformer. You'd never miss the enemy.
Yeah.
That would be 100% perfect transformer.
Yeah, that's for commissions or sharpshooting.
All right, I got another important question to ask you. I was just in Vegas last week, and I'll be there next week. Well, I'll be there tomorrow. What am I talking about?
Tomorrow, man.
Yeah,
not next week. Tomorrow.
Yeah. So I know that one of your favorite spots in Vegas is the Wynn.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to give the Wynn a different name based on my experience last week. I called it the Lose.
Oh.
The Lose because I had to wait like 90 minutes to 2 hours to get a room at the Wynn. So from the Wynn to the Lose. Now, is there anything? Because you're a high roller at the Wynn. Maybe you can help us out. Make sure the next time we go, like if we say, hey, we know Giles House, that means Giles Penthouse. Does that mean that we actually will get a suite at the top if we just mention your name from now on?
I wish it did. I think it's the opposite. I think you get a room in the basement, or you have to do washing up in the kitchen after dinner.
Well, that'll be another 3-hour wait.
Yeah. Sorry, you just mentioned who? Oh, I'm sorry. I put the bottom of the list now.
Yeah. The Treasure Island's across the road.
Well, tomorrow we're at the Aria, at least.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's a great one.
Yeah, that's the better ones. It's Pros' conference tomorrow. Outperform.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Cool.
So what's next for you, bud? What's your GM of Sales Cloud at SAP? Right in there with the big boys. Now at SAP, Leslie, Rory, they're gone, man. Like you're the last senior guy from Giles Cloud left at SAP, I think. Am I right about that, or is there anybody else still there who's senior like that?
There's lots of good people still.
No, there's lots of Giles Cloud staff there, but I'm talking about like senior management. Leslie and Rory are over Medallion now.
I think it's natural when these things happen, right? And so a few people have left, but the core team's still there, and the mission to change the face of sales and what we would be doing at Canvas is what we're doing now at Sales Cloud. And there's a ton of work to do. We're doing very well. We're growing fast at a very big size. We're making money, which is rare in the Silicon Valley not-for-profit world. And there's a lot more opportunity there. We're just getting started with this idea of Sales XM. I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that, the same old in terms of CRM isn't going to solve the problem. And it's funny, I saw this thing, I don't know if it's true, but if you look at what we were just talking about with Bullet and this guy, Ken Block, this guy that's the crazy car driver that does donuts on the Bay Bridge in San Francisco.
Yeah. That's just like, holy cow.
He's got like 20 million viewers of his videos. Right? If you think about viewing figures, I remember like sort of viewing figures in the UK for Strictly Come Dancing or something like that. And it would be like, oh yeah, we pumped in 5 million. And it's like, this guy's got 20 million and he's on YouTube and he doesn't have a contract with a network or anything like that.
He will.
but you look at I think the highest grossing celebrities or something today, there was a list published recently, and it's all YouTube stars.
Yeah.
And it's people unwrapping presents and, recording themselves eat food.
That little boy. It's that little boy.
Yeah, do it reviewing.
He makes $6 million a year.
It's bonkers. It's
That's
bonkers.
the right word for it.
But so all this stuff's happening, and this is what cracks me up. All this stuff's happening. We've had the iPhone, and it kind of feels like that we're still, in the enterprise software world, we're still just dealing with the iPod. It's selling well. People like it. But we're kind of hoping that nobody puts a camera on it and turns it into a phone. Meanwhile, the customers have got like 10 generations of iPhones and Androids already. And the gap is just getting further and further apart. So it's like, well, if we keep doing the same thing, And in the CRM world, it's the same thing, just in the cloud, more or less, right? You pay for it on your credit card. But it's the same underlying premise. And if we keep thinking that's the answer for improving our sales performance and results, then the outcome's going to be the same. Quota attainment levels are going to kind of plateau. They continue to decline. You know, the CSO Insights guys do a great job of putting these reports out. And every year, quotas go up, attainment is flat to decreasing. And we just keep doing the same things, you know. So for us, we can solve that by taking a different view. It's not to say that CRM is wrong. CRM has its place, but it's just not the answer for, you know, driving quota attainment for salespeople.
You know what? I have to admit, I am like so continually astonished. Remember the data you gave in the very beginning when you were saying the gap in between what, let's call it, senior executives think how well they're doing when it comes to the customer experience and how well customers think they're doing. I mean, we've had data like that for 15 years. And how dumb are senior management that they haven't seen it by now? I mean, either they don't know how to read or they just willfully ignore everything that's been said for 15 years. I mean, there's never a survey that says the gap is 1% or 2%. It's usually 75% or 80% every single time. I mean, I've seen 100 surveys. I've read every one of them, and they're all the same. They all say exactly that. Senior management thinks we're doing a great job. It could be that they're just lying through their teeth, too. That's the other possibility. They are senior management of a company and have to protect the interests of the company, even though it's anonymous. So, I mean, that blows me away. It really does. I am in awe of the level of obliviousness, if that's a word.
It is, because you can't hide anymore. You know, the point you made about, well, maybe they're hiding, but you can't. You know, your companies are being reviewed on the internet, social media, Google results now. Everything comes up with stars next to it. So there is no hiding.
Yeah, but you know, I was trying to give them the benefit of the doubt because that literally makes them look like idiots if they're not hiding it. Right, so I just try to be kind.
Fix, because we you know, the approach is to guess. And think about all these, I mean, customer journey mapping. I mean, that was all the rage, and it had so much promise and potential behind it. But it's all based on analysis of data and deep studies and lots of money with consultants. And how much of the time do we actually just stop and go, hey, Mr. Customer, what do you want? What works well? What doesn't work? And actually asking that question, people often ask that question. But what they struggle with is actually dealing with the answers and turning all of those answers into information. It's not that they don't get enough of the data, it's making sense of it at scale and unifying it. I mean, people have like hundreds of different platforms and vehicles for getting this feedback.
You have hundreds of different vehicles.
A fish. But you know what I mean? It's like, how do you expect to make sense of that if you can't even get it all into one place and then, you know, analyze it at scale? So it doesn't surprise me. I think at least people now are focusing on it and talking about it more and more, which is encouraging. But they've got to realize that there's other things out there to solve that problem. And as it relates to salespeople, you know, the customer experience doesn't begin with the post-sale customer success team.
Of course not.
You will never become a customer if your experience with the brand in acquisition mode is lackluster, which unfortunately all too often it is today.
The customer's experience with the brand begins the day they become aware of the brand.
Absolutely. And it's totally out of your control.
Yeah. And, well, you know, I always thought my definition of social CRM was right.
There you go.
The customer's is the company's programmatic response to the customer's control of the conversation. That was it.
I mean, they are judge and jury of your experience. It doesn't matter what you do.
Okay, so now
this is fine today, but we all know what your next move is.
What's that?
You're going to be a stunt car driver at some crazy, you know. You want to be the Keith Block, not
Ken Block. Don't
be the Keith Block.
No, definitely don't want to be Keith Block.
You want to be the next Ken Block, right? Isn't this what's going on here?
Look, he's a great example of you're never too late to get into something. Sold his shoe company and decided to become a rally car driver, and now he's making these just absolutely breathtaking videos.
You know what? You should actually come and attend. You should come to SEAT this year.
All right.
You know why? So those who, I'm sure the people who are listening know what SEAT is by this time. So Brett and I both are on varying committees at SEAT. But SEAT is Sports Entertainment Alliance and Technology. And actually, SAP, to their credit, is sending Scott McIntosh, who's their sports vertical lead, to the conference, and he's doing some speaking there. And the former CMO of SAP, who is the current president of the San Jose Sharks,
Mr.
Becker, will be both interviewed by Scott on some sort of thing, and also will be on a panel of outside experts that I'm running at the conference. But the reason you should come is because it's being held at the Daytona Speedway. The whole thing. Not is it being held at the Daytona Speedway, but it's literally everything is on premises at the Daytona Speedway, including the hotels, everything else. So that means you get all the behind-the-scenes stuff about the Speedway.
You can even do a test drive around the track, too.
That's right.
You're talking. Now you're talking.
You definitely should come to that. Yeah,
we could make another video. We did a video a few years ago in a race car about doing a quote, which was totally stupid, but fun. Maybe we can make another video for our new mobile app or something in a car.
That certainly justifies the cost of the trip. So you should absolutely go. Look. SAP is a sponsor, man. You're already sponsoring it, so you might as well come.
Market research for all those salespeople that are race car drivers. We've got the tools for you.
Yeah, that's
you
really
can hire Ken, whatever his name is, as a spokesperson. Bring him to the thing and then create a video. We could do a CRM Playaz while he's driving us in the car.
Oh, there you go.
CRM Playaz.
I'll let you do that one. I've driven with him.
It's people with a very firm constitution, I think.
Yeah. You should, I'm going to start a national campaign for Giles to come to Daytona.
Oh, let's do it. I'm in.
Okay, everyone here, everyone's listening over the next few days. When we put up these snippets and this part is on the snippet, vote for Giles to come to Daytona.
I'm in. Disclaimer: I need to find out what the dates are.
July 13th, 14th. No, July 14th, 15th, 16th. Does that sound right? Yes.
Sounds close.
Yeah, those dates. No. Again, SAP is an official sponsor, so you can attend.
I love it. We're doing some work with. She's now a triple world champion windsurfer, superhuman being, Sarah Hauser, and so we sponsor her. And it's incredible what's going on in this world. She's a triple world champion for windsurfing.
Wow!
You see the waves that these guys go down.
Yeah.
It's just, and she's a lovely little girl. I think she's 5 foot or something. And then so you see her on her board, and then you see her surfing down this almost once in a generation wave called Jaw, which is like 50 feet high.
Oh my God!
It's insane. So she's incredible at what she does. But we're doing a lot of work with her. There's lots of work going on with sensors and IoT in sports.
Yeah, well, you used to sponsor Ernie Els. I remember that in golf, and and the other thing, the best customer video, one of the best customer videos, I should say, that I ever saw was actually a video that you guys did at Sapphire, probably 6 or 7 years ago. But it was with McLaren, and it was and they had end to end monstrously large high definition screens. Mm-hmm. I mean, just at the in the front, and it was huge and long. And the very end of the video, a McLaren car started at the right, my right, and went all the way through to the left and out. And the sound went with it, and it was just an amazing video. Well, that was amazing just for it. But the actual customer video, if you can find it, It is well worth looking at. It was a great video.
Let's check it out. That'd be cool.
All right. Well, hey, I guess we better wrap this thing up. But it's good to have. I would have called Giles House like the Ricky Bobby of like software.
Ricky Bobby. Shake and bake, baby. Shake and bake.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been fun. What should we be on the lookout for from what you guys are doing?
Look out for Sales XM coming to a mobile phone near you.
All right.
Awesome. All right.
Except one last thing. You really did ruin my closing to emails. You completely ruined it. It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do from now on. I'm going to have to come up with like R's and Y's or something.
Yeah, all the emails we get from Bill and stuff, they're XOs now.
Yeah, see, but he had a different purpose than me.
Yeah.
All right. We got to cut this off because, unfortunately, we got to head to Vegas. We got to, get
ready. Yeah.
Slumming it in Vegas. Have a great time, guys. It's been awesome. Great fun.
Thank you.
As always, sir. I will see you soon, too.
All right. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and we're going back to Vegas, and we're telling people we know Giles House. Maybe we'll get a better place to stay.
And we are out of it.
All right.